Somewhere beneath the frozen ground of Siberia, or buried in the tar-soaked earth of Los Angeles, the bones are still down there, waiting. A skull with two canine teeth longer than a hunting knife, a jaw built to crush bone into powder, tusks curved like scythes, long enough to lift a grown man off his feet. For tens of thousands of years, this was not a fantasy world. It was simply the world, cold, brutal, and ruled by animals larger and more dangerous than almost anything alive today. We call it the Ice Age, and it was one of the deadliest periods this planet has ever produced. Picture the ground beneath your feet frozen solid for most of the year, stretching out in every direction as far as the eye can see. No forests breaking up the horizon, just endless grassland dusted with snow, cut through by rivers of ice. This was the Mammoth Steppe, a vast, cold grassland ecosystem that once stretched from what is now Spain across the entirety of Europe and Asia and into North America. It was, at the time, the largest biome on the planet. The air was thin and freezing. Winds carried snow for hundreds of miles with nothing to slow them down. And yet, against all odds, this frozen wasteland supported some of the largest, strangest, and most dangerous animals ever to walk the earth. Massive herbivores with thick coats of fur grazed across the tundra in herds that stretched for miles. And moving through the shadows and the snow, watching, waiting, were predators built for one purpose only: bringing down prey many times their own size. This was not a gentle world. It ran on a single unforgiving rule: adapt or freeze, hunt or starve, survive or vanish into the ice forever. Let's begin with the animal that has become the very symbol of this age, an animal whose name still sends a chill down the spine of anyone who hears it. The saber-toothed cat, known to science as Smilodon, was not a single species but a genus, with different types ranging across two entire continents. Smilodon fatalis prowled the plains of North America, while its larger cousin, Smilodon populator, ruled South America on a scale that would have made a modern lion look almost small by comparison. Everything about this animal's body was built around one devastating weapon: a pair of canine teeth that could grow longer than a man's hand, curved, serrated along the edge, and capable of punching through flesh and cartilage with terrifying ease. But here is what most people get wrong about the saber-toothed cat. Those enormous teeth were never used for a quick, brutal bite in the middle of a struggle. They were far too fragile for that. Break one against solid bone, and the animal would likely starve to death within weeks. Instead, Smilodon was an ambush hunter, relying on raw power rather than speed. Its front legs were extraordinarily strong and muscular, built to grapple and pin down prey many times its own weight. Only once the struggle had ended, once the animal beneath it had stopped fighting entirely, would those long canines finally come into play, delivering one precise, controlled bite to the throat. Control first, the kill second. That was the entire philosophy behind this predator's design. And we know an enormous amount about how Smilodon lived thanks to one of the strangest graveyards on Earth, the La Brea tar pits, sitting in the middle of modern Los Angeles. For tens of thousands of years, natural asphalt seeped up from underground, invisible beneath shallow pools of water. A thirsty herbivore would wander in, become trapped in the sticky tar below the surface, and its distress would draw in predators looking for an easy meal. Those predators, in turn, would become trapped themselves. Layer after layer, generation after generation, the tar preserved an entire frozen snapshot of Ice Age life. And Smilodon fossils turned up there by the thousands, more than any other large predator ever found at the site. Some of those fossils tell a surprising story. Several Smilodon skeletons pulled from the tar show old injuries, a shattered pelvis, a broken leg bone, that had already begun to heal by the time the animal died. An injury that severe would have made hunting alone almost impossible. For that animal to survive for months afterward, something else must have been feeding it. It's one of the pieces of evidence some researchers point to as a sign that at least some Smilodon lived and hunted in social groups, not unlike modern lions. Whether they hunted entirely alone or occasionally in loose groups, one thing is certain: Smilodon was not the only predator stalking the Ice Age plains, and it was far from the only one with a taste for very large prey. Moving in packs across those same frozen grasslands was an animal that has become almost as legendary as the saber-toothed cat itself: the direwolf. Larger and considerably more powerful than the modern gray wolf, the dire wolf carried a broader skull, a more muscular build, and a bite force strong enough to crack open the leg bones of prey to reach the marrow inside. Where a gray wolf might specialize in speed and endurance, the dire wolf was built more like a heavyweight brawler, thick through the chest and shoulders, designed to grapple large, dangerous animals and hold on. Like Smilodon, we know an extraordinary amount about the dire wolf because of La Brea. In fact, dire wolves are the single most common large mammal ever pulled from those tar pits, with well over 4,000 individuals recovered from the site, more than any other predator found there. Isotope analysis of dire wolf bones reveals they were hunting large, open plains animals almost exclusively, bison and ancient horses chief among them. And the sheer number of dire wolves preserved together at La Brea strongly suggests they hunted as coordinated packs, much like gray wolves do today, working together to bring down prey that would have been impossible for any single wolf to kill alone. But pack hunting came with its own brutal cost. Heavily worn and broken teeth are common among dire wolf fossils, evidence of animals that regularly crush through bone to extract every last calorie from a kill. And evidence, too, of fierce competition over carcasses once prey had finally been brought down. Life in a pack meant cooperation during the hunt, and open rivalry once the meal was on the ground. And the dire wolf was not hunting in an empty landscape. It shared its territory, and very often its prey, with Smilodon, setting up one of the most intense predator rivalries the world has ever seen. Two apex hunters competing for the exact same herds across the exact same frozen plains. Not every dangerous animal of the Ice Age hunted for a living. Some of the most intimidating creatures of this era barely ate meat at all. The cave bear was, without question, one of the largest land mammals of Ice Age Europe. Males could weigh close to 1,000 kilograms and stand well over 3 meters tall, roughly 30% larger than even the biggest modern brown bears, putting them in the same weight class as a Kodiak bear or a polar bear. Its skull alone tells a very different story than you might expect. Rather than the sharp, shearing teeth of a dedicated predator, cave bear teeth were broad and flattened, far better suited to grinding tough plant matter than tearing through flesh. Chemical analysis of cave bear bones across dozens of sites in Europe points to the same conclusion again and again. This was an animal whose diet leaned overwhelmingly toward vegetation, not meat. So why does an animal built like a plant eater still belong on a list of the Ice Age's most dangerous creatures? Simply because of what it was capable of, whether it chose to use that strength or not. A 1,000-kilogram animal with claws built for digging through frozen earth and powerful enough to defend itself against a saber-toothed cat did not need to be a predator to be lethal. It simply needed a reason to feel threatened. And cave bears needed caves for one very specific reason: hibernation. Across Europe, entire cave systems have been found containing the remains of tens of thousands of individual cave bears, generations of animals that denned in the same passages winter after winter, some of whom never woke up again. In parts of Central Europe, before anyone understood what these massive skulls and bones actually belonged to, local communities who stumbled upon them assumed they had found the remains of dragons or unicorns. The cave bear vanished from the fossil record roughly 24,000 years ago, disappearing earlier than many other Ice Age giants, likely as the shifting climate reduced the plant life its enormous body depended on to survive. While the cave bear grazed through the forests and lowlands of Europe, an entirely different kind of giant dominated the open, frozen plains. An animal wrapped in a coat built to survive almost anything winter could throw at it. The woolly rhinoceros stretched up to 5 meters in length and stood roughly 2 meters tall at the shoulder, its entire body wrapped in a thick, shaggy double coat of fur, specifically evolved to trap heat against some of the most brutal cold this planet has ever experienced. 2 horns, made of the same keratin as human fingernails, curved up from its skull. But these were not simply weapons. The woolly rhinoceros used its long front horn like a snowplow, sweeping it side to side through deep snow to uncover the frozen grasses and shrubs buried beneath, food that would have been completely inaccessible to almost any other herbivore on the steppe. This was an animal built entirely for endurance in a world without mercy. Thick fur, a heavy layer of insulating fat, small, low-slung ears designed to lose as little body heat as possible. Every single adaptation pointed toward one goal: outlasting a climate that killed almost everything unprepared for it. Remarkably well-preserved woolly rhinoceros remains have been pulled from frozen ground in oil-saturated soil across Siberia. Some so intact that scientists have been able to study skin, fur, and even stomach contents directly, giving us a window into Ice Age life more detailed than almost any other extinct species on Earth. For hundreds of thousands of years, the woolly rhinoceros thrived across this frozen world. And yet none of these animals, not the cats, not the wolves, not the bears, not the rhinos, could match the sheer scale of the true giant of the Ice Age, the woolly mammoth. An animal so massive it could stand up to 4 meters tall at the shoulder and weigh more than 6 tons, carrying curved tusks that in some individuals stretched past 4 meters in length, longer than a small car. Beneath a coat of hair that could grow more than 90 centimeters long, the woolly mammoth carried a layer of insulating fat up to 10 centimeters thick, along with a distinctive fatty hump across its shoulders, believed to have served as both an energy reserve and a source of water during the harshest stretches of winter. Like modern elephants, woolly mammoths appear to have lived in tight matriarchal family groups, with older, experienced females leading herds of related individuals across the steppe in search of food and water, while adult males typically wandered alone or in small, loosely organized bachelor groups once they matured. Their curved tusks served far more purposes than simple defense. Mammoths used them to sweep aside snow and reach the vegetation buried underneath, to strip bark from trees, and very likely, based on comparisons with modern elephants, to establish dominance among rival males during the breeding season. Despite their almost unimaginable size, mammoths were far from untouchable. Coordinated groups of predators, and eventually early human hunters armed with spears and organized strategy, were capable of isolating and bringing down even the largest individuals, particularly the young, the old, or the injured, who fell behind the safety of the herd. For hundreds of thousands of years, these 5 animals, along with countless others, shared this frozen, unforgiving world. Predators competing with predators, giants defending themselves against giants. An entire ecosystem locked in constant, grinding tension between survival and starvation. And then, gradually, it all began to disappear. The end of the Ice Age was not a single catastrophic event. There was no asteroid, no single afternoon that changed everything. Instead, starting around 14,000 years ago, the climate began a long, uneven warming trend. Glaciers that had defined the landscape for millennia slowly retreated. The cold, dry mammoth steppe, that endless frozen grassland that had fed and sheltered these animals for so long, began breaking apart into forests, wetlands, and disconnected patches of tundra. For animals perfectly adapted to one very specific, very harsh environment, that kind of change can be a death sentence. The specialized traits that once made these creatures nearly unstoppable, massive size, thick insulating fur, a body built entirely around extreme cold, became liabilities in a warming world that increasingly had less and less room for them. Genetic studies of woolly rhinoceros populations suggest that even as the climate shifted and human hunters began spreading into new territories, rhino numbers actually held surprisingly steady for a long time, only collapsing rapidly in the final few thousand years before their extinction, as their surviving habitat shrank to almost nothing. Scientists studying direwolf populations have found something similar. As their primary prey, the horses and bison of the open plains, declined alongside the retreating grasslands, the wolves themselves appeared to have vanished not long after, unable to adapt quickly enough to a world that no longer offered the enormous herds they depended on. Climate change reshaped the map, and into that changing world came a new kind of predator entirely, organized, intelligent, and armed with tools no Ice Age animal had ever faced before: modern humans, spreading rapidly across nearly every continent these animals called home. Exactly how much of the blame belongs to a warming climate, and how much belongs to human hunters, remains one of the most debated questions in all of paleontology. The honest answer, based on the evidence we have today, is that it was very likely both, working together, each pressure making the other far more difficult to survive. One by one, over the course of several thousand years, the giants of the Ice Age disappeared. The saber-toothed cat, the dire wolf, the cave bear, the woolly rhinoceros, and finally, the woolly mammoth itself, the last populations clinging on in isolated pockets of Arctic tundra until as recently as 4,000 years ago. A timeline that means woolly mammoths were still alive on this planet after the pyramids of Egypt had already been built. What remains today is written entirely in bone, frozen carcasses pulled from the Siberian permafrost with skin and fur still intact. Tar-soaked skeletons stacked by the thousands beneath the streets of Los Angeles. Massive skulls once mistaken for the remains of dragons, sealed inside European caves for tens of thousands of years. The Ice Age is gone, its giants are gone with it, but every single one of them left something behind. A record preserved in stone and ice, patiently waiting for someone curious enough to dig it up and listen to what it has to say. Which of these Ice Age predators do you think you would have feared the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to keep exploring the most extraordinary and dangerous chapters of life on Earth with us.